Recently I completed a podcast on one of my favorite subjects, which of course is level of wellness. And I said in that podcast, as I did in the first podcast of the Personalized Fitness podcast, I said that everybody's looking for the same thing. They're looking to feel better about being themselves. And that's true. Now, in the years of the existence of Personal Edge for the last 22 years, we've worked with a lot of children and adolescents. We've got 19 scholarships to our name. We've taught kids to work out. And it's interesting that no matter what the child is coming to us for, the parent pretty well has the same question. They don't know what their child needs, which is why they're coming to us for an answer. Well, the answer to it is basically pretty simple. They need to know exactly what their child needs at that developmental stage in their life. And the answer is located in an abbreviation called Ltad. And we're doing a series of about Ltad starting today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. Good day and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson, president of Personal Edge Fitness, and your host for the podcast. Now, before we get into talking about our subject today and also telling you how to get in touch with the show, I want to quickly introduce my guest today because everybody recognizes him. This is Charlie Marlowe. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Garrett. It's good to be back.
We did a podcast last week with Charlie, actually on Meet the Staff, and we did that for a reason because of the series that we've got that we're starting today, and Charlie's our authority on that. So before we get into Ltad and what all that is, I want to tell you how to get in touch with us if you had any questions. You can reach out to us at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach out to me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. That's also our website and, of course, our Facebook page. Hit us up on Twitter at Team PE if you have any questions there. So we appreciate the comments that we got from Charlie's podcast, and so we're glad to have him back because we're starting a series today on a very popular subject, but it goes into detail like I've never seen it before. And this is everybody knows the story, I believe, of how we came up with the name of Personal Edge. It was actually PE is what it started with, and my wife is who came up with the name Personal Edge. The reason I wanted it to mean PE, or what usually stands for physical education, is that you need PE all your life. And they were cutting programs out of physical education early in school. A lot of people give up on it, and that's why I wanted PE in everybody's life. So obviously, adolescent, child-focused fitness has always been a part of what we do. But knowing exactly what your child needs, knowing exactly what each athlete and each child needs at whatever stage, and we're talking from very young all the way up to, even in going into college, the development of that child is unique. And knowing those different stages is extremely important, and what is broken down into what we call Ltad. Now, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to tell Charlie, tell us basically what is Ltad? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so it's something I'm really passionate about, something I've been studying for a while because when I first started into this, something I mentioned on the last podcast is what I came to realize is kids aren't miniature adults, and how you train them, you need to go about it in a different way than you would a college athlete or somebody who has a lot of experience. And so basically what Ltad is, it stands for long-term athletic development. So it's broken down all throughout that individual's whole life span. Okay. And so basically it's what needs to be done at each stage of human development to give every child the best chance of engaging in a lifelong health-enhancing physical activity.
Okay, and so basically, that's why you're saying it's long-term athletic development.
Exactly. So
breaking it down to the different stages depending on, well, it's not just age-related, but you'll get into that in a minute. So explain a little more if you would, please.
Okay, and so, basically what Ltad really is it's a system of training and competition recovery used to based off of that individual's developmental age, so not necessarily their chronological age or their maturity level. And so basically what we get into is there's a difference between chronological age and developmental age, and then we also have what's called training age, and I'll define those three right there. So,
well, now we have. this is something we see this on a weekly basis.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want to name names here, but you've got 12-year-olds, and then you've got that look they're short and what have you, and then you've got 12-year-olds that are they're going to be approaching 6 feet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. So,
I mean,
so completely different. That's what he's talking about chronological age, basically on the calendar, versus their developmental age. Where are they as far as development is concerned? I'm sorry, I interrupted you though. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just going to say what you said. So chronological age is going to be based off, time passing on a calendar. Developmental, it's more of where they're at physically, developmentally along a certain range of where they should be. And then training age is going to be how long have they been physically participating in a solid exercise routine, not just going to the gym here and there, but how long have they been participating in a structured routine of strength conditioning. Okay. And so that's what Ltad really is breaking it down, what they need throughout their whole lifespan, going from when they're playing sports into adulthood when sports are over with.
I got you. I think it's amazing that we're talking about kids. We're talking about developing athletes, young athletes, what have you. But you see what he mentioned. And I promise you, I didn't tell him to say this, but he was basically saying that chronological age doesn't really play a part in this.
Oh, definitely not. No.
I mean, this is all developmental age. Yep. I mean, that's what it's all based on. So,
exactly. Wow.
Can you believe on the Personal Age Fitness podcast, they're telling you that age means nothing, even in kids. Even in kids, I mean, I think that just you and I talked about this subject, and it just hit me right there that basically it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't. And so, so an example I like to use for Ltad is, and this kind of breaks it down for people just to really get an idea of what we're trying to do. And so, let's say this athlete in particular is a car, and you're wanting to purchase this car, okay?
Right.
Well, it's a $10,000 car is what its face value is, so you see the price tag, okay, $10,000, and you say, you know what, I'm going to give you $12,000. And the salesman's like, well, why would you give me $12,000? That doesn't make any sense. And exactly, it doesn't make sense. Why would you pay $12,000 for a $10,000 car?
Right.
And so how we can relate that to strength conditioning and training athletes is, why would you give a kid something that's far more advanced than what they're capable of?
Right.
You don't need to be giving kids these advanced training methods that college professional athletes are using, whatever you're seeing on Instagram.
Right.
What they need is something a lot more basic than what you're seeing the professional athletes do, because their training age, their developmental age is a far greater capacity than what these kids are ready for. And so that's an example that I think breaks it down pretty well.
And that's what I love about this being set up for their developmental age. Mm-hmm. Now you're not saying these kids, oh, they can't handle that. That's too much for them. It's not a challenge.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they said on that podcast I couldn't do it, but my 8-year-old, I got him to do it. There's danger in that.
Exactly. Yeah, there definitely is danger. And so another thing that I think the Ltad really emphasizes is the slow cooker method. Okay. And
okay, wait a second. We're going to Paul Prudhomme now.
Yeah. So
slow cooker method. What do you mean?
Yeah. So you think about a microwave and a slow cooker.
Okay.
A slow cooker, it takes time, to sit there, to roast, to bake, and a microwave, zap it, and in the end, like you get a finished product, whatever that may be. But the slow cooker, it takes more time. In the end, it's usually a better product you're getting.
Right.
So what we're trying to do with the athletes is we're trying to slow cook them. We're not trying to zip them out through an assembly line or whatever may have you, because at the end of the day, a 12-year-old athlete, you can't compare them to a professional athlete. They're not on the same physical level. And so I think when it comes to training them, you need to approach it a little bit differently.
Well, and we're going to talk about the pitfalls of that in just a second. And this is basically what we're doing today is kind of an overview of this process, because we've got a few podcasts that we're going to do on this, because it's very in depth about that. But the slow cooker, like you were talking about, the slow cooker method, it's not so much trying to hold kids back by any means.
Definitely
but reason Charlie's talking about developmental age is it has to do with their growth plates. It has to do with are the bones formed, are the joints formed in order to handle certain types of activities. And there's evaluations to figure that out. As far as pinpointing that, if you have them doing something, I had this when I was in high school. That a kid was being pushed beyond what he should, and his talents were fantastic. It was great, but developmentally he wasn't there, and he kept breaking growth plates.
Yeah.
And that can be extremely dangerous, and cause a lot of problems down the road. So,
yeah.
What other dangers are we looking at as far as this goes?
So the dangers of early specialization, and so what that would be is,
what's that now? What's early specialization?
So basically, it's intense year-round training in a specific sport with the exclusion of other sports at a young age. And so, I mean, I'm sure people have heard, like, you need to expose your kid to a variety of sports, and
right.
you know, why is the reason for that? And it's because, I'll take, baseball for an example. It could happen with any sport, though. But if you're going through, say, baseball year-round, and you're repetitively throwing a baseball, and that action, that's why you see a lot of Tommy Johns and 13, 14-year-old kids these days. Which Tommy John, that's an overuse injury that shouldn't be happening in kids. I mean, right. that's something that should be happening well on to professional athletes or whatever after they've been doing it for several years. And so, early specialization is something you don't want in a kid because they're still developing those general movement skills. They shouldn't be specializing yet. And so,
not only that, but they're developing those parts of the body.
Exactly. Yeah. The brain's still developing. I mean, so you've got a lot of different parts at play that really it leads to increased injury risk, like I just mentioned with the Tommy John. And so that's another big factor is what we're trying to prevent is injury reduction as far as what we're trying to achieve with Ltad. Another one, a risk for early specialization is burnout.
Yeah,
I know a lot of kids that I play with growing up experience this. Is they played all this year-long sports of a certain sport all throughout childhood, and they got in high school, and then they just decided to stop playing because
right.
it just got to be they didn't love it anymore.
We see this a lot, and excuse me for interrupting, but we saw this. I saw this a lot with young runners. Mm-hmm. We had some phenoms that were seventh graders that were running varsity, mm-hmm. and by the time they got to 10th grade, that was it. They were done with it, and it wasn't so much because of injuries. It was like you say, just complete burnout. Now, having coached gymnastics for so many years, for every one Olympian that you mm-hmm. see that makes it at a young age, you've got a wake of gymnasts that didn't make it strictly because they burned out of it. I mm-hmm. mean, it affects their life so tremendously at such a young age.
Right. And so you've got those two main risk factors. I would like to say is increased injury risk, and then burnout. And so what that can do to a kid, I mean, I experienced this, as I shared on my introduction podcast, is my injury and how that hurt my confidence and just right. My self-worth as just an athlete. And so when you become injured, you're no longer the best, most talented athlete on the field. That can really damage a kid's mental health and their confidence. And so I think it's important to look at like what's important as these kids are developing and they're playing their sport. And I think it doesn't matter how many games they win or how good they are at 12.
Right.
What really matters is how good and how healthy they are at 18 to 22, when it really matters, when right. the colleges are coming to knock at the door, and when when the wins and losses actually matter. What truly matters when that age is, are they developing at the rates they should, and are they not getting injured? Because like I said, overuse injuries should not be happening at kids at that age.
Well, that and you were talking mostly about athletes, but mm-hmm. there are plenty of kids that come to us to work out with us that mm-hmm. that aren't going, and their parents tell me that when they come in, hey, look, be great if he gets or she gets a scholarship or what mm-hmm. have you, but this is for now. They're having fun. That's what I want to make sure they're having fun. And how that affects them, whether they continue on the sport or not, that's a big part of this.
It definitely is.
Approaching it the right way so that we don't, one thing, injure them for any kind of long-term problems, mm-hmm. And yes, affecting athletic performance, not only athletic performance now, but later. But at the end of the day, the vast majority of people don't end up going into mm-hmm. Collegiate sports and what have you, and making sure they're not hurt and they have a healthy experience with a healthy relationship to fitness.
Exactly. So that's definitely the goal. And so Another thing is I'd like to touch on is what's the value of coming to a place like Personal Edge, people that have education in the field, who are certified, and
Right.
who know how to take a kid through the process correctly. And so I would say making someone strong is easy, as you know. I mean, we're taught one of the first things in school, progressive overload. You just
Right.
continue to find new ways to add in volume or make it a little heavier each week, and people are going to gain strength.
Sure.
And an easy way to break this down, I heard a coach say, is you give a 5-year-old and you tell him, take 5 teenagers in the woods and tell them to pick up a bigger rock each day. And each day you try to get them to pick up a little bit bigger rock.
Right.
And at the end of those, few weeks, they come back out, they're going to be stronger just because of
Yeah,
just going
of
through that
course.
process. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't take much is my point. And so the reason you would hire a qualified strength and conditioning professional is to enhance overall athletic development, and that is to get them stronger, faster,
Sure.
more powerful, but also healthier.
Right.
And so that's my point with Ltad is, there's a lot of ways to get somebody strong, but to do it correctly where they're not seeing imbalances and injuries
Right.
come up later on. That's why we want to use that slow cooker method, so that way
Sure.
we do it the right way.
Well, give us an overview of what we've got coming. Now, this is today's podcast, an introduction into Ltad, and because, like Charlie says, it is very involved, and so give us a breakdown of what we're looking at.
Yeah. So there's a few different stages. The first one is broken up into developing physical literacy, and so that's broken up into 3 different points. And so you've got your active start, and so that's
Right.
just starting out. Then you go into your fundamentals, okay?
Sure.
And then after that, there's learn to train.
Okay.
And then after that, you've kind of got your baseline, what you want, your foundation you want to set. And then you go into excellence. And what that's broken up into is your train to compete / win, and then active for life. And so
Right.
it's kind of, you start with your basics, you're just building a foundation, and then from there, you're really teaching them to train, and that's where winning becomes more important, because whether you're trying to get a scholarship or you're trying to play professional,
Right.
And then after that, like I mentioned, active for life. And so that's what at Personal Edge we're really passionate about. It doesn't matter
Sure.
if you play a sport or not. As soon as you enter that active for life stage, it could be you never play a sport and that's just
Right.
what you do, or after your sport. We want to push that active for life because
Right.
we know the benefits of living that lifestyle and how it can just really help your overall quality of life. And so
Sure.
that's what we want to push.
Sure, and this is, do keep in mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, but it's with every kid that comes and trains here, every day we're making them healthier, we're making them faster, we're making them stronger, no matter what stage they're in.
Exactly.
We'll be very clear about this. This is not a process, well, hey, look, we're going to put the time in. We're never going to win a game. We're not going to even make the team until we're 18. That's not what we're saying. We're saying making sure they're doing the correct training for their developmental stage.
Yep.
Right then. And by doing so, you're not going to take that, you're not going to run the risk of the injury. You're not going to risk of actually spinning your wheels. What you were saying about the paying $12,000 for a $10,000 car. You're not going to be spinning your wheels trying to do something you saw on TV that well, this professional athlete did that. And it's something that one may hurt your child. And the second thing, if nothing else, not going to move he or she forward.
Exactly.
That's probably the biggest part of it. And so many times we have parents come in here and they bring a child in here and they'll talk about the fact that, well, I heard that so and so, a faster, older athlete is doing this particular exercise, and so automatically, since my child is doing the same sport, I think they ought to be doing that exercise. And that's what Charlie's cautioning you on is you want them doing things at their development. Very well, they could be, but at their developmental stage. So
Yep, exactly.
and anything else you want to add as far as that goes?
Not necessarily. So like you said, we're going to take each of these stages and break them down one by one. And
Right.
so the next one the first one we're going to touch on is active start. And so that would
Fantastic.
be what active start and fundamentals. We'll combine those because that's basically, from early on, toddler,
Right.
and just basically taking on what they need at that time in that
Sure.
stage in their life. So
Sure.
yeah.
Stay tuned to this because we're going to be walking through this for the next couple of weeks, going over the different each one of these stages. We want to make sure we cover each stage, cover the stage that your child is in. But if you have any questions, and we haven't covered the stage yet or whatever you're concerned about, making sure that your child is developing the right way, especially since we've got, school starting up pretty soon. We're having quite a bit of athletes call us right now because there's some off season going on. If you have questions about that, please reach out to us, area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. If you want to reach Charlie, you can contact him at charlie@personaledgefitness.com. That's also our website and our Facebook page. Feel free to come through the website or the Facebook page and message us there. We'll get back in touch with you and mention Ltad, Ltad for your child or child development. Be glad to answer your questions about that. Always, you can hit us up at Team PE through Twitter. My producer gets upset with me if I don't make sure I throw that one out there. So, because we do have people contact us that way. So, look, we're stair-stepping with this. We want to make sure that your child, when you put your child in a program, no matter if that person that like we had just recently, got a kid that's going to be looking at schools right now, going to be signing them, no matter if they're at that level, no matter if they're at that level, they look like they're showing a little promise and want to take their game to the next level, or some of our favorite, which is, kids that have never been in a weight room and they want their kid to know about lifting. That's what we want to do. This is the kind of program we're going to take them through, and mainly because that's the way we're going to help them find their level of wellness. Charlie, thank you for joining us. Look forward to getting into this. So,
thanks, Gary. Me too.
Join us next week.